If you have your eyes on bagging a bear, you could one day, maybe, hunt for one right here in Connecticut. State wildlife officials are floating the idea of a bear hunt lottery to the governor, giving a limited number of hunters permits to shoot a limited number of bears. Department of Energy and Environmental Protection spokesman Dennis Shane says there are no proposals for a bear hunt yet, and even if lawmakers were to approve a bear hunting permit lottery, that doesn't by itself mean there will be a bear hunting season. It's a long way from that, but not, he says, a long way from having to consider it. DEEP stats say Connecticut has between 500 and 1,000 bears, and that number is projected to double every 5 to 7 years. Already, he says, state wildlife officers are playing musical bears.
They can tranquilize them and take them back to a wooded area. We do that often. It's a lot of resources between our officers and the local animal control officers.
Hunter Dan Corsino at Bristol's Wolf Gun Range is sold on the bear hunt idea, adding that any good hunter is a conservationist, with preserving nature and wildlife a priority, something he says opponents don't understand.
It's generally based on ill-gotten facts, you know. That it's just a bunch of people out there killing things, and that's not what it is at all.
He's right about that. Animal rights activist Nancy Rice doesn't understand that.
They're going to bait the bears. They're going to put, donuts and bacon grease, or bacon, I think that's what they used in New Jersey. It's very unkind, and they're going to bring these bears to them to make it easier for these hunters who are right now foaming at the mouth. We know that they're so excited and salivating for this, and, we're going to do what we can to stop this.
Lori Perez, Fox Connecticut News. Here to talk about the need behind the proposal and what it actually means and does not mean is the chief of the DEEP's Wildlife Division, Bill Hyatt. Bill, thanks for being here. So first of all, let's talk about how much have you heard from people who've heard about this idea in the last few days?
Well, obviously there's a lot of people with a lot of interest, and really that was part of what we're very happy about. This is a subject that's need talking about for some time, and this proposal has brought that out in the open, and it's started the discourse.
Yeah, is it a long time coming? I talked to lots of hunters who said that they're not surprised that this is coming to the forefront now, and that it's really been a consideration that they think should be brought up for a while. Tell me, when did you actually begin to think, okay, we need to really take an official step on this?
Well, first off, this is really a good news story. If you look back, bears disappeared from the landscape of Connecticut back in the mid-1800s. They gradually, as the forest recovered, the bear populations in northern New England recovered. They gradually moved south as the forest grew south. And beginning in the 1980s, they came into Connecticut. So it wasn't long ago that we didn't have any bears. And it really is a testament to the health of our ecosystems and really to the ability of Connecticut to manage its habitats, that bears have returned. And that's a good thing. But we do have to manage the success. And really, since the 1980s, as the bear population has expanded, particularly in recent years, the number of complaints, the number of concerns, the number of instances where people and bears have interacted have increased, and people have started to ask about what are we going to do looking on into the future.
But why? What's the need? So they've had encounters, but have there been very many violent encounters, or what's the risk if we don't handle it?
Bears they're a big animal, they're a large animal, they basically do what they want. The numbers in Connecticut have increased, the number of encounters have increased, and as the population grows, they spread out of their habitat and into suburban and urban areas, and that's where the concern lies. They start spending time in backyards, in neighborhoods, in close proximity to people. They start to lose their fear of people. And when that happens, you've got to have some measures in place to deal with that. To date, we've been dealing with it mainly by education, getting people to take in their bird feeders, getting people to bring in their garbage, getting people to really sort of bear-proof their properties. When problems have occurred, we've gone out and we've trapped and relocated bears. We've scared the bears to make it undesirable, convince them that they don't want to come back into a neighborhood. But those, as the bear population expands, those are losing their effectiveness. And so we do have to look forward. We've got a population that's doubling almost every 5 to 7 years. So we do got to start planning for the future.
Are there other states that are having success without having hunts? Are there any, state-of-the-art new methods for dealing with bears?
Well, that's an interesting question. I think everybody tries to focus on education. But if you look up and down the East Coast, there's only 2 states without bear populations, Delaware and Rhode Island. All the other states have bears, and of those, the only state without a hunt is Connecticut.
Wow.
So all of these states have used all of these techniques to try to manage the bear-human interaction issue, and ultimately those other states have come to the conclusion that a hunt is something that's necessary.
So, but at this point, I mean, you're just floating this idea. I mean, where are we on this process? I mean, certainly it's a step
Right.
towards a bear hunt.
Right. The proposal that we put forth really just gives us the authority to issue permits and to hold a lottery and to collect revenue for that. It's really just the beginning of this step. It would, at the same time, we're continuing to educate the public about what they should do when they interact with bears. We're continuing to do research. We're working with the University of Connecticut to get better information, better data on the state's bear population. And we're considering alternatives. This proposal would put some tools at our disposal, but it would still be a year, 2-year process, a lot of public discourse in that process before a bear hunt could become a reality.
You mentioned you're considering alternatives such as?
Well, one of the alternatives is to continue along the track that we've been doing, which involves the education, trapping problem bears, relocating them, euthanizing ones that are really problems, and we do euthanize 3, 4, 5 bears a year that do cause problems. They become aggressive, things like that. We can continue along that track. That's really the only alternative. And if we go along that track, people are just going to have to be more tolerant of those problems. Some people of which are not going to be very acceptable of.
Right. They're not going to accept those. Yeah. I mean, someone told me about, or I read a lot about bear aversion training. What is that, and what do you know about that?
That's basically when we've got a problem bear that's coming into an area that's exhibiting, maybe doing some property damage, being persistent. We will have wildlife biologists and law enforcement officials go out and they'll trap that bear. And when they trap it, they'll either release it on site or transport it somewhere else to release. But they really want to get a message to that bear that he does not want to come back into this neighborhood. So in essence, they scare it. And they scare it with pepper spray, loud noise, rubber buckshot. They really make it a very unpleasant experience for the bear in hopes that they won't come back.
Right.
It works sometimes. A lot of times it doesn't.
It's bound to be a very emotional issue. I mean, as I'm sure that you expect, and I'm sure we'll have to talk about it a lot more before it actually gets to be a realistic thing here in Connecticut. Thanks a lot, Bill, for being here.
Thank you.
Massachusetts ups the ante by opening its doors to casinos. We take a look at all the action now in and around gaming. Some say you got to bet big to win big.